So the most interesting video I've watched today was about the enneagram thing, where you take a quiz and you have personality options 1 through 9, and each result, those are the results, your enneagram 1, 2, 3, up to 9, and it you can take it in a superficial way and it will just give you one of the numbers. You can get into more depth and it will give you a number, plus it will identify characteristics of some of the other numbers. And I did this thing years ago. Well, I mean, it was 4 years ago, probably. And I got number 9, and I got in depth with it enough so that it gave me 2 other types. So I am a 9-5-4. And when I read that statement about myself, the description of the type of person who is a 9-5-4, that it really clicked. And maybe it was confirmation bias, I'm not sure, but it really seemed like a great characterization of my personality. So if you go ahead and look up Enneagram 9-5-4, you'll get a pretty good description of what I'm like. And what I like to do is investigate widely different things in life and then try to bring them together and make some kind of conclusion that's deeper than the various topics. That's the main topics on this channel being science and spirituality. So, over the last few years, what are some of the things I've looked into? Inner child work. And I've gotten a lot of insight about myself by doing that. Shadow work. That is ongoing, and bits of the shadow keep coming up, and I feel uncomfortable and grumpy, sometimes self-judgmental. But shadow work is about moving past that self-judgment and really trying to understand why I think and behave and feel as I do. So inner child work, shadow work, the law of one and being a starseed. I've looked into that, and that has taught me things about myself. Do I really believe I'm a starseed? I don't know. Do I say that that's a bunch of crap and there's no way that this is anything more than some kind of daydreaming or fantasy or psychosis? No. It might be the case. I'm open to it being the case. Astrology. Were I to pay someone to do an astrological chart of me, would I believe the results? It would be the same sort of thing. I would certainly not disbelieve the results, but I don't think I would be 100% convinced either. Investigation of religions. Well, in my pursuit of physics and pursuit of, underlying fundamental truths about the universe, this has caused me to look at a Hindu tradition, the Sankhya Karika. And there are Vedas that talk about the fundamental reality of the universe. And that has guided my investigation of physics. Do I believe that the Sankhya Karika is the fundamental theory of everything? Again, the jury is out. I mean, there's truth in it. It certainly seems to pretty accurately describe the atomic nucleus versus the electron cloud. In a way that I had never considered before. It seems to correlate with what we know about the strong nuclear force versus the electromagnetic force, with electroweak theory kind of in between those two. And then there's neuroscience, the nervous system, neuropsychology. My background in neurology is mainly about which artery supplies which part of the brain and what happens if that artery is occluded. I mean, that's mainly my knowledge of neurology because in the hospital, I need to diagnose a stroke and decide very quickly whether the patient can have an angioplasty or thrombolysis therapy or not. But there's so much more to neurology than just the anatomy and the clinical syndromes. There's neuropsychology. And I see a lot online about it, and I'd love to know more about that, and whether consciousness resides in the function of the brain, or is there more to it than just what an individual brain is doing? I believe there is. Yeah. And then there is my main pursuit, which is the mathematical structure of quantum field theory. And a big part of that is that I'm looking into right now is Lie groups, L-I-E, but it's a Norwegian name, pronounced Lie. Norwegian mathematician towards the end of the 19th century who came up with this math. But it's very useful in physics, and that's why I am learning it. And one of the main ideas in it is that there are groups of mathematical functions, groups of calculations that can be performed. And I mean, you look at the numbers or vectors or whatever that you're plugging in. You look at the group of functions that act on those inputs, and you get outputs. And some of these things are very complicated and difficult to understand, so that there's there's a thing called a Lie algebra, which is less complicated, less detailed, and you can work with it more. And it's like a code. It's like a deeper truth about some mathematical model that you can focus in on. You can work with it, and then you expand it back into the complicated framework, and you have an understanding of the real complicated framework. It's like a code. It's like our DNA is a Lie algebra, okay, and we are the Lie group. You know, you can look at the DNA code and then understand something in terms of a gene, but you put that gene into biological reality and it will create a human or, well, plant or animal characteristic. So the genetics is kind of like the Lie algebra. And the phenotype, you know, the expression, that's the Lie group. I mean, these things were used originally or earlier on to figure out the atomic nucleus and the strong nuclear force, and pretty successful because it predicted the existence of some weird particles that we ended up finding. And in a way, the enneagram is a Lie algebra, right? I tell you that I'm Enneagram 954. And then you can look that up, and it will give a pretty faithful and accurate description of what my personality is like. So that's the Lie group, my personality. The Lie algebra is the Enneagram description. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. So I talked about a lot of different things to think about, and I have not come up with any unifying principle for it all. But that's what I'm about, looking at all these different things, thinking about them, and trying to come up with some kind of faithful conclusion. Yeah. I watch a lot of videos, read a lot of books. But what I'm presently missing is the deeper discussions. I had a friend that I could talk all about the Enneagram group with, or the Enneagram ideas with. And she is an Enneagram type 2, the social navigator type. And boy, she fits that to a T. And here I am, this 954. And she agrees that I'm a 954. Haven't talked to her about that for several years. But, yeah. I guess that's my video journal for today. I really don't know what I'm going to put on this one as a title. I guess something having to do with underlying code and then expression of that code into reality. I guess that's the main theme here. Yeah. All right. Well, see you soon.